Your reaction to that interview?
Let me give my reaction to you, Piers, okay? I just, your every rant you've just given the last hour, it's honestly, you're such a liar and a disgrace.
Yeah, but you're about to do the same thing. I'm giving you the platform. You talk about the interview. You trash me every time you come on. You trash me every time you come on, which is exactly the thing you accuse me of doing. If you've got something to say about the interview, say it.
Let me finish. You bring out coverage about Meghan and Harry on their wedding day and the engagement, but conveniently forget to show the coverage before they got engaged, between the engagement and the marriage. So you conveniently forget that Prince Harry, in November 2016, talked about the racist undertones of the media. You conveniently forget all of that to paint this picture that all was rosy and hunky-dory. Nonsense. And then you are lording over the Queen. Listen, by all means, let's applaud the Queen when she does something right. But when she does something wrong, we need to call her out.
What does she do wrong? What does she do wrong?
Grandmother. Let me finish.
Did you hear that? Did you truly hear what happened that morning? Because before we even dive into the body of this conversation, before we take apart the shouting, the tension, the cracks in the studio atmosphere, I want you to sit with one truth. This was the morning the nation stopped pretending. 4 years ago, on Good Morning Britain, a conversation unfolded that wasn't just heated. It was historical.
What kind of grandmother would be so close to her grandson, Harry, but then not use her power and influence as queen to protect them from the racist media coverage?
I find what you're saying about the Queen actually disgraceful. I find what you're saying, you're entitled to your opinion, Shola. Sorry, no, I'm allowed to respond to what you've just said.
Is rooted, listen, you might learn something. The royal family as an institution is rooted in colonialism, white supremacy, and racism. The legacy is right there. So you're now surprised that a comment would have been made by several members of the royal family about how dark Archie's skin is.
It's not several members, actually. No, you can't spew lies.
All right. Harry and Meghan.
Are we allowed to engage in any of this?
Let me finish.
It wasn't just a disagreement. It was a cultural reset. The headline read, "Liar and a Disgrace." Heated debate between Piers and Shola over Meghan Markle's Oprah interview, GMB. But the moment itself was so much more than words on a screen. It was a televised confrontation between denial and truth.
Well, you're not stopping.
That Harry and Meghan had the audacity to speak that truth, then you should be at the actual outrage of racism.
Right, okay. Am I allowed to respond to this? Am I allowed to respond yet?
You can respond now.
Okay. I think what you've just said about the Queen is disgusting. I think it's unbelievable. You talk about the behaviour of a 19...
Am I lying when I said that?
Allow me to say what I'm... Allow me to explain.
And the institution is protecting...
Allow me to defend our royal family, thank you.
You tell me.
Right, if you stop shouting, I'll answer you. You going to stop shouting?
Oh, after you stop shouting.
Yeah, let me tell you why I think what you said was disgusting. The Queen is 94 years old, right? Her husband is 99. He's lying in hospital for the 4th week, seriously ill. You talk about how could... Please let me speak, Shola.
Everybody, come on, let's
please
just
let me
stay
speak.
calm.
Okay, whenever you're finished. Whenever you're finished.
Recovery, but the reality is you cannot
Shola, I'd like to finish my sentence, please.
Any omissions or conduct
I would like to finish my sentence.
What your family has done that has perpetuated racism.
Okay.
You don't cover it up.
Can I please finish my sentence?
You have to be able to call her out when she's done something wrong.
Between institutional comfort and lived reality. Between a media machine built on selective outrage and a woman who refused to be intimidated by it. And today we're returning to that moment, with clarity, with depth, and with respect. Because some of you watched it, some of you heard it, but not everyone understood it. So I ask again, did you really listen to what Dr. Shola said? If you did, then you felt the ground shift. If you didn't, don't worry. You're about to feel it now.
I'm going to finish my sentence now if you stop shouting at me. Here's the finish of my sentence.
Guys.
You talk about the behaviour of a 94-year-old monarch and you say that she should have done more. What about the behaviour of Harry and Meghan, who are spray gunning his family on global television as Philip lies in hospital? You might laugh. I don't think it's funny. I think it's piling hurt on the Queen,
Morgan,
who is already
what
suffering greatly from her husband's
I'm going
illness.
to respond to that. What I don't think is funny, I'll tell you what I don't think is funny. It's the fact that you are such a disappointment. I wish to God one day you would even surprise me. You constantly use your platform as a wealthy, white, privileged man with power and influence to
what a
aggravate
load of
and
nonsense,
escalate
honestly.
the bigoted,
What a load of
sexist,
race-baiting
racist,
nonsense.
and the misogynist
What a
attacks on
load
Meghan
of
Markle.
race-baiting
And you do it so
nonsense.
shamelessly.
We have done
That's the
more.
point.
We have done
So the
more
Queen is
on racial
94,
issues on
Philip
this
is
show
99.
than any other
So that
show
you
on
can't
television.
Call out anything they've done
You're
that is
talking,
wrong.
Shola. You can
want
keep
to
shouting.
deny that the royal family has any racist undertone or actions against the first biracial, simply because you're in love with the Queen?
No,
You
I
can
think
love
I
the
think
Queen,
what you're doing
but
now.
You can love
Okay.
the Queen, but you should be able to call out actions done by the royal family when they've got it wrong.
Yeah, I'm not going to let you trash the Queen. Sorry. Just not going to let you do it.
Well,
I'm not going to let you do it. But you've had your say. Let's bring in Johnson Bahari now. I presume you'll let Johnson Bahari talk, will you? He won the Victoria Cross for serving his country.
Let's walk through it. Not quickly, not shallowly, but slowly, truthfully, and powerfully. The second the clip begins, the tension is already thick enough to slice. Piers Morgan sits upright in his seat, arms braced on the table, voice sharpened like a spear. He is prepared, absolutely convinced, that he is about to dominate another conversation. He believes he holds the moral terrain, the public narrative, the authority of the room. But then, without raising her tone, without standing up, without even shifting in her seat, Dr. Shola Mos-Shogbamimu flips the script. She begins with a statement that is so precise, so direct and so unshakable that it destabilizes the entire dynamic. Piers, you are the problem. In that moment, everything changes. Her words don't land like an attack. They land like a correction, a reset, a rebalancing of the scales. Shola calls out how Piers conveniently forgets the years of racist undertones that Harry himself warned the media about back in 2016. She highlights how he repeatedly glorifies the wedding, the engagement, the fairy tale, while ignoring the years of headlines dripping in prejudice, misogyny, and racial hostility. She points out the inconsistency, the hypocrisy, the selective truth-telling. She challenges the false innocence the press hides behind. And she does it all with calm precision, while Piers, visibly rattled, tries to keep up. This isn't chaos, this isn't drama, this is clarity entering a room that had been dark for far too long. Then comes the moment that cracked the country in half. Shola says what millions were thinking but were too afraid to utter. What kind of grandmother, with that much influence, would stay silent while her grandson and his wife were being destroyed? Immediately Piers erupts, his voice rises, his face hardens, the theatrics begin. Disgusting. Unbelievable. A disgrace. But Shola doesn't flinch, not for a second, because she isn't attacking the Queen personally. She is confronting the institutional silence that enabled the abuse of Meghan Markle, a silence that the media desperately tries to sanitize. Shola's point is simple. If the monarchy is praised for its power, revered for its stature, and defended for its influence, then it must also be held accountable when that influence is not used to protect those within it. Her truth is sharp, her logic is airtight, and Britain wasn't ready. Because for the first time on national television, someone dared to say, respect does not mean obedience, reverence does not excuse responsibility. This is where the debate becomes historical, uncomfortable, unavoidable. Dr. Shola brings forward a truth the nation has been sweeping under palaces and carpets for decades. The royal family as an institution is rooted in colonialism, white supremacy, and racism. These aren't opinions. These aren't insults. These are facts. Documented, recorded, written, archived, and taught globally. But the moment she says it, the studio atmosphere shifts again, because the myth of the monarchy requires innocence. It requires rewriting. It requires selective memory. Shola refuses to participate in that lie. She reminds viewers, the monarchy's prestige is tied to empire. The wealth comes from colonization. The global influence was built through conquest. And Piers, unable to confront the truth, interrupts, deflects and argues without substance. But Shola remains rooted, grounded, unmoved. This wasn't about disrespect. This was about honesty. She wasn't rewriting history. She was exposing the parts the nation prefers not to confront. By this point, one thing is glaringly obvious. Piers Morgan cannot, and will not, acknowledge Meghan's actual lived experiences. Every time Meghan expresses pain, he labels it an exaggeration. Every time she mentions racism, he calls it a lie. Every time she tells her truth, he dismisses it as manipulation. And Shola calls it out with laser focus. She exposes the dynamic. A wealthy white broadcaster using his influence to publicly undermine a biracial woman who dared to speak up. This is not about Meghan as a person. It is about what she represents. It is about how the media treats women who do not fit their mould, how the public scrutinizes black women differently, how Meghan's mere existence disrupted a centuries-old image of the royal family. Shola brings the conversation back to what matters. If someone says racism was present, you don't attack them for speaking up. You examine it, you investigate it, you take it seriously. Piers refuses, because acknowledging Meghan's truth forces the nation to confront its own. The conversation escalates, not because Shola loses control, but because Piers loses the narrative. He begins weaponizing Prince Philip's ill health as a shield, as if racism pauses when a senior royal is in the hospital, as if Meghan should have remained silent to protect reputations instead of her own sanity, as if timing is more important than truth. Shola dismantles it instantly. She exposes the tactic: sympathy used as distraction, emotion used as deflection, tradition used as justification. And she reminds the audience, age does not erase accountability. Royalty does not erase prejudice. Silence does not erase harm. This is where Piers becomes emotional, not out of compassion, but out of defensiveness. Because, once again, Shola touches the nerve Britain avoids. Racism within powerful structures is not an accusation. It is a reality. In a classic broadcast move, GMB brings in Johnson Behari, a Black Victoria Cross hero, hoping his positive experience with the royal family will soften the debate. He speaks honestly and respectfully about his own encounters. Shola doesn't challenge his truth. But she doesn't let the moment become a weapon against Meghan either, because individual experience is not universal experience, because one positive story does not erase another person's pain, because representation does not equal equality. Johnson shares his perspective. Shola respects it, but she maintains the larger point. Institutional racism is measured by patterns, not exceptions. And that is why this moment becomes so revealing. The show unintentionally demonstrates the very dynamic Shola has been describing. Black voices are accepted when they affirm the institution. They are challenged, attacked, and silenced when they call it out. What makes this interview unforgettable is not the shouting, Not the drama, not the viral clips. It's this. A black British woman stood up to a system built on centuries of denial and did not blink. She refused to let lies become truth. She refused to let false narratives go unchallenged. She refused to let Meghan's pain be dismissed. She refused to let history be rewritten to protect feelings. Shola spoke facts, spoke boldly, spoke fearlessly, and that's why this moment still echoes. This was the day Dr. Shola Mos-Shogbamimu did not just debate Piers Morgan. She exposed an entire system, live on air. The truth shook the room, the truth shook the nation. And days later, that same truth made Piers walk off his own show. Because once truth is spoken loudly, it cannot be silenced again.